Good morning, sir.
Hey, hey, how are you?
Phenomenal. How are you?
Good. Just wanted to. Awesome. So, how was the rest of your workout?
It was solid. I ended up joking around with Octavio and Roxanne probably more than I should have, but that's always fun. That's part of the having a good time over there. But yeah, pretty solid.
Wonderful. Um, all right. Well, thank you so much for making time for this today. We still good for the 10 to 11?
All good. As
Okay.
long as my iPad doesn't die in that time, we got 29%. We should be fine.
If it goes out, then it goes out, but we'll be
If you
good.
lose, don't take it personally. It wasn't until
Awesome. Well, welcome to the My Tribe podcast. That's kind of the name we're going with right now. It's the name of my personal training company, and it's that name because I see, like, I want to build a tribe. I want to build people around me that are of amazing, growth orientated, personal growth, all of that. That's kind of why I asked you to be here, to be able to connect and kind of share your story. I mean, I got a glimpse of it in the limited interactions that we've had, and it's been amazing. So I just wanted to thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for your time. And yeah, I'll let you go from there. Tell me a little bit about your journey, I guess.
yeah, cool. Very open-ended. I could go in a million places. No. Ultimately, I grew up in small town Indiana. Father left before I turned 5. I have a brother who's 15 months older, a sister who is 4.5 years younger. So my father kind of right on the tail of left and tried to work it out with my mom. My sister was conceived. And then I have a couple younger half brothers. One is just a few months younger than my sister. So obviously that ended up being a conversation in our teenage years, as you put, like, hey, it takes 9 months to make a baby. Well, how does dad have, why are we celebrating this birthday? And so ultimately some of my childhood was fatherless home, not really having an example of a man in the house. I looked at actors, athletes, artists, your typical influencers of music videos, which you can imagine what kind of impression that leaves in a man's or in a young man's life. I played a lot of sports growing up, so I looked to a lot of athletes. And interestingly enough, there's some very famous athletes that are high performers, but because of some of their conduct outside of that arena or that field they played in, I didn't care for them. And some people are like, how do you not like so and so? Or how do you not care for? Like, yeah, he's incredible on the court, but I think just ingrained in me as a young man, and I didn't know the full story with my dad and mom and what happened, but a lot of that built my foundation of, like, I love high performers. I love people that crush it in any area. I think you can learn success principle from them. But I think I lacked the respect due to what happened in my childhood, that, like, I don't care if you're the man on the court. If you're not the man at home, good for you. Proud of you for doing that. But I think it was part of the, you could call it trauma, but like part of the what occurred with me younger, which I'm not the minority with that. I know a lot of people grab on to, like, well, this happened in my youth. Like, dude, the majority of us went through something similar,
Youth
but
shaped to who we are today. Yeah, those are the
correct.
experiences.
And so I just found that, like, it left a hole, which instead of using that as a label or, well, my daddy wasn't there, it caused me to identify, like, maybe a higher standard to respect men, not out of superiority, but out of maybe some jaded, like, I want to see who you really are. So I grew up with some trust issues and keeping people at bay and not really getting close to them, because I personally felt like most people's talk did not match their walk, or their walk did not match their talk. It's that old saying, like, your talk talks and your walk talks, but your walk talks more than your talk talks.
Mhm.
Like, I find myself going,
Yeah,
it's a
that's
tough one.
it.
But so yeah, so I don't even know why I'm sharing that with you, but ultimately that was the beginning. I have a mom who is incredible, and if you got to meet her, everybody loves her. She's an angel. She's very rooted in her faith, very rooted in her vision for her life. Um, One of the most caring, loving, selfless individuals ever. She worked multiple jobs while trying to take care of 3 young kids, and we played a lot of sports, so that helped out with some time occupying some time, free childcare. which is great. But she really helped us with our core values. And like I said, we happen to grow up with a faith, but our core values and understanding like how to treat people. And I'm not perfect by any means. Ultimately, I moved down to Florida and went from being kind of by the book and doing things right. I've always been a bit of a joker, as we know each other a little bit. Like I've always been a bit of a joker and got in trouble in school, and that not uncommon to have behavioral issues without a solid father figure in the home. So I went through kind of that, give me attention and type of stuff. But ultimately, as far as like the big decisions or big challenges that would create some serious issues in your teenage years, I never really did any of that. I kind of kept it. I was very involved in the church and kept things kind of straight. And then I came down here, and I no longer had. I like to say I was like outside of mentorship and outside of my faith. I no longer was spiritually rooted, and I had no one to help give me some bumpers on the lane. So I came down here, and within 3 months, some of the what's that?
At what age?
I graduated high school 17, got here October 1st of 2004. I turned 18 in May. So literally I was just a fresh 18. And had been around people who partied and been around people who had done married people things, but I had made the decision like, hey, I'm not going to do that. And like within 3 months of being down here, I was like the ringleader. Like, here's where the party's at. Like, let's go. Like, I just found myself that I wasn't as rooted in my own personal decision making as I was influenced by my environment and by my association. And so without my mother there, because I have so much respect for her, without that guiding light, like I said, I had no boundaries. So it was like anything goes. And even though there's things I knew, like, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. This isn't how you want to live your life. I found myself actually recreating a lot of the patterns that my father had done, interestingly enough. So anyways, just in the trajectory of my life. And so kind of turned that around, obviously got around some great association, got more focused on, got around better examples. I got around men, like exactly what you're doing right here with your tribe. I think you're not bringing perfect people together, because we'd all be faking it if we said we were perfect, but you're bringing people together that have a desire to move and progress and develop and be vulnerable and open and share their stories and learn from each other, because we all know we've got flaws and we all want to grow and get better. And so I imagine part of that community aspect that you're doing with your tribe is to serve, support each other, learn from each other, and go be better men and women in the community. And whatever tool you utilize for that, whatever extension of yourself, however you express your values and your vision in life, however you go, whatever media you go to do that with. So yeah, anyways, came down here for school, bounced out to California, ran a nightclub in California while I had my screen printing company, my clothing line, met Nikki there. She worked for me. We like to joke around, say she worked for me about 2 weeks, and I've been working for her ever since. I was her boss ever since, but yeah, to kind of, as you can tell, I talk too much. So to shorten that up, I ended up back over here 2011. We've been married over 10 years now. Got an 8-year-old son, will be 7 on Veterans Day, and then another boy coming in December. So, and here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, I may have said this before. I don't know. I don't think I have, though. The relationship and the love that I can see between you and Nikki is one of the most like profound and beautiful things that I've ever got to experience. Like, you hear people like, oh, those people are great and that relationship is amazing. But to see how you guys work together, to see the credit and how you guys bounce off each other, it's such a beautiful complementary relationship, love. It's unbelievable. It was almost like breathtaking to see and so beautiful. I mean, could you go into a little bit of that?
Yeah. First of all, thank you. And ultimately, none of us are in people's homes, so we don't know what actually happens behind closed doors. And when you spend, yeah, when you spend enough time with people, you start to get glimpses of that, and you start to see that. Because I don't believe anybody can consistently act in a way that's inconsistent with their character. So every once in a while, you have someone of prominence that you find out like some like terrible things they're doing. Like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? They had stayed outside of the light long enough, but eventually what you do in the dark comes to the light. And so part of our focus, and I'll speak on behalf of Nikki, is like, we just want to get better for us here. And however that's viewed or perceived in the public is however it's viewed or perceived. Not like I don't care, we're going to do what I want, but also not in a, okay, well, we're forward facing now, whether it's on social media or in person. Like, we better make sure we look or sound like we just try to be real. Like, we're not perfect. We joke around. Like, I open her car door and I do things for her and I serve her, and she does things for me and serves me, but like not for the show aspect, because I genuinely want to do that. And I don't care who's looking. And part of that goes back to the roots of how my mother raised me, and then the type of men I hang around nowadays. Is we all held ourselves to a higher standard, and not the typical like athletic aspect where how we hold ourselves to a higher standard is like cracking on each other, like, oh, you didn't even open her door. Like, no, it's like, okay, let's go be those men and serve each other, and maybe have little reminders of accountability, of not being short with our wife, not cracking on them, not cutting them down, not embarrassing them. We have some neighbor today I absolutely love. They're awesome. But like, they every 30% of their conversation is neutral to complimentary. 70% of the time, they're like knocking each other down a notch. And they don't even realize it. And I'm like, oh, like, holy cow. But I came from broken home and the locker room and then the bar industry, where it's like most of what you do all the time is like you get friends by making fun of people, like, ah, oh, you're funny, even though no one ever feels good about that.
Yeah, it's how respect is established. Essentially, if you can break balls, you can give and you can take. You got to give more than you can take, but
yeah,
it's such a toxic environment. And when you break
no one ever feels good if we crack on each other. Like, it's funny in the moment, but like it does create insecurities, negativity, passive aggressive nature. And so, not to just highlight the neighbors, like they don't even realize it. And I'm like, man, like, how can we be that example? Not by putting on a show, but just being ourselves and going, okay, and to any right that they allow since their life. I'm not saying like, hey man, you should probably not talk to your wife like that. No, like we can live through our example and then be a safe place when someone has perspective or has questions or whatnot. But I would say that the testament to our relationship, and we're only 10 years married, which nowadays is a big deal, which is kind of crazy. But Nikki's parents have been married for 41 years. She grew up in an amazing, stable household with a very open family who talks about everything and communicate to work through things and learn each other, even when someone is feeling offended, or even when someone said, hey, I don't appreciate how you said that. Instead of aggression or toxicity or negativity or holding it in and then blowing up, her family's always just talked very openly. Whereas my family, we're all hard workers. And we use that as an excuse to not communicate because we're all going a million miles in different directions. And so no one really communicated when, like, my sister was feeling something about me, or my brother was feeling something about me, or I was feeling something about my mom. The family would talk to each other about the people they should talk with. And that's what gets a lot of people in trouble nowadays, is you talk about the people you should talk with. And guess what happens? It gets back to those people.
Always.
And then it never goes. So Nikki and I have decided in our relationship is that when there's something that needs to be discussed, I'm not taking outside the four walls of my house without communicating with my wife directly and properly. I'm not going out with the boys having a drink going, oh yeah, what about your wife? Yeah, mine's doing this again. Are you kidding me? I'm not putting goofy stuff on social media. No, I'm going, okay, why did this affect me? What is the reason for it? Am I in the wrong? Can I take ownership over this? And then we have meetings weekly where we have an executive meeting. We have a house meeting, like, how are we? And that's a facts, not feelings meeting. That's a, where are we at? What did I do this week that could have been better? What did I do this week that you appreciate? Vice versa. We've done an exercise before, and like, what's the 5 things that I can do for you? What's the 5 things I'd like to see you do for me? Not what are the 5 things I want you to do for me? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do these other things. And sometimes when you put those down, the 5 things you want to do to serve your spouse, and the 5 things you would like your spouse to do to help support you or serve you, when you look at each other's, sometimes the 5 things that you think, like, I'm really helping her out, her 5 things that she wants for you, not even close to that. Like, so it's like the whole 5 love languages. You could be speaking a completely different language that's not actually serving them. And so it helps us communicate. And then the biggest thing is when we do have conflict or challenges or things to work through. Sorry, my kids are having a great day here. I apologize. But when we have that conflict is, I don't go to my family and she doesn't go to her family, which is tough because that's what most people do. Take, for example, if you're in a relationship and there's something with your girl that you're just not quite feeling, well, what's your family going to do? Most families are going to support you. And then it becomes a situation where it's a versus. It's a Patrick versus her.
Pretty biased.
Correct. Oh yeah, it's absolutely a bias. And then what happens a lot of times is she consults with her family, you consult with your family, and now you're coming back and it's reinforcement around proving yourself right and attacking the other person. That doesn't benefit anybody. So we have some awesome mentors in our life that are non-biased. Well, I'd say they're non-biased, but most of them like Nikki more than me. I get it. You've met her, you know.
That's
but
understandable.
that was a very proper confirmation, very respectful confirmation. The same way. But so I go to them. It's like, hey, here's the situation. This is what's gone on. This is what I want to say. This is how I want to react. And instead of reacting emotionally in the moment, they help walk me through responding with forethought. And one of the things that I always think about is like, what's the next step? Because most people damage relationships because they need to feel hurt or their ego is damaged and they need to say something. And then what happens is like, okay, you might have like won the battle but lost the war. You might have like been right, but you damage the relationship. The trust isn't there anymore. The respect isn't there anymore. There's a conflict. And so for me, because I historically growing up, temper issue, quick to react, very emotionally charged person, and I kept just hurting myself and hurting others. Like for me, I'm constantly going, okay, what's the next step? Do you need to put that little jab in there? Do you need to say that? No. If the goal is to uplift and encourage and support each other with the goal of us going in the same direction and accomplishing the similar vision, same dreams, well, then it's never about who's right or wrong. It's like, how can we be better? And a powerful couple is like a successful couple is two successful individuals, which means like you focus on getting yourself right and that will automatically elevate, and then having healthy dialogue and conversation with the other person, not going, I'm doing all this and you're not, or attacking them, or not doing what you should and depending on them to do it. But it's going, hey, the best thing I can do for my wife is be the best me. And I've only gotten me to where me is. So I need to have some men that are further along with longer standing relationships, great prosperous relationships that I can seek perspective from to get a little guidance. Like, so anytime you meet someone who's been married for 20, 30 years, I always like to ask them like, okay, what's the secret? Like, that's a joke, but it's like, what would you attribute the health in your relationship to? And that's the other tough thing is like, even using that one singular timeline of 30 years, well, there's plenty of people that have been married 30 years and not a marriage you want to model after. That's part of the like, that's part of it. It's like a convenience or a tax benefits, like whatever. Like, so that's part of the developing relationship and getting to, I don't know, see behind the curtain, if you will. And obviously we're building a relationship, get to know each other. You pretty much know what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. If it's here or here, it's coming out. And I'm not everyone's favorite flavor. I understand that. But like, you're never going to wonder where I stand. You're never going to wonder, is there an angle or what's he doing? No, man, this is where I'm at. And if we're not on the same page, hey, high five, no problem. Do your thing. Like you're a very respectful guy. You're a man of character. Like we've talked about different projects, gone different ways, and you own it. And we have a great I think we have a close relationship today because of how you carry yourself, because you're a man of character. As opposed to awkward, goofy, no, man, whatever. I think this is great that we're getting to do this. I'm excited. I'm excited 5 years from now, 10 years from now to see how you progress and develop. And as much as we progress our relationship, you get to see that, like whether I'm witnessing from an outside going, I know him, like I was there at the beginning, like, or we're celebrating together when you hit X amount of views on your podcast or listeners, whatever. I don't know if it's part of a maturation because it's not just age, but eventually you just want to see people win.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate all those very kind words.
Absolutely.
I go back to that transition point of, going from yo guys, the party's over here. I seen some old Facebook posts of kind of seeing myself doing so, yo guys, we're going to this club tonight. We're here, we're there. Doing a little bit of research.
Fine. I keep it up there so that we keep the house glass. You don't need to just like when people show their fitness, like I was 340 pounds and now I'm 198 pounds of shredded. Like you want to see the good for you. Like you want to see
where you.
And if we, you only curate your life to show the success, but like the valley or the peaks without the valleys. Like you're not real. It doesn't are there seasons of your life that you look back and go, man, I wish I didn't do that? Sure. But it's part of what made you who you are. And part of that test that created the testimony and that what gives you that power of like your your self-confidence, knowing that you've overcome and come where you've been, because like no one cares about you complaining about what you went through or what you chose to do yourself if you don't overcome it. And so yes, doing your research on social media. So this, I don't really social media if you haven't picked up on, but I still have my Facebook up from before, and you've probably seen plenty of mohawks and middle fingers. There was a lot of, probably years of not a single day where I didn't have a drink in my hand or going and partying. So I'm sorry, I'm taking you away from your comment about the transition from.
No, really, like, no, you're, describing for the listeners, the picture that I got to see. And I would say is, where you are today to where you're from, that's, immensely important. And I mean, what helped that transition? I know a lot of people in my life going through that, or attempting to, or holding back, like, I don't know if I can give this aspect of my life up for this. And it's that transitional coming up on 30 kind of thing, is for my circles what's going through. So I mean, tell me a little bit about that transition for yourself.
Absolutely. So I think everything is relationships. People say it's more about who you know than what you know, and like it's preached a lot but rarely practiced. I lived down here for 5.5 years, created a great friend network of fun people. And then I was like, I need to change. Like, South Florida's not good for me. Like, no ownership. Like, I got to get out of here. Everything's going to be different. So I moved to LA. Yeah, this is the problem. This is the problem. So I moved to LA as if that would be better. And I can literally show you like my 5 closest friends here and my 5 friends in LA. Same people, different bodies.
Right.
I had my drinking buddy, my smoking buddy, my sports buddy, my concert buddy, like, and then out there I had I had my drinking buddy, my smoking buddy, my concert buddy, like literally. And we can say like, oh, our life is going to be different if we pick up and uproot and go somewhere else. And the whole saying, you bloom where you're planted, but you need to be more decisive, not only where you plant yourself, but how you're watered. And I think that comes from your association. Like, I collected people that were like an extension of me. So even though I moved, I didn't move who I was. I didn't change. I didn't grow and develop. So in LA for a very short period of time, found myself right back to building the exact same life I had built when I was here. So unfulfilled, unsatisfied, frustrated, like just doing dumb stuff, and decided, oh, well, you know what? I got some connections back in Florida. It's going to be different this time. So came back over here. And I think part of that did get to a point where I was ready. There's a whole saying that like success happens when opportunity preparedness meets. Like, I had different opportunities to grow up in life, but as you were talking about, I didn't want to let go. Like, I think ultimately, no matter what your values are or where you stand, like most of us understand right and wrong. Whether you express it differently, and everyone's got different opinions nowadays. I'm not going to open up that can of worms, but like, when you do something that's outside of alignment of like who you want to be. It's typically by the guilt right after the fact, whatever your offense is you go like, come on, again? Come on. I think I had finally gotten to the point where when I moved back here, I was prepared going, dude, this is the same stuff. I partied here, I partied there, both coasts. Relatively same people, same experience, same feeling the next day, same year over year. And I just look back and said, man, in the last 5 years, I can't say I'm moving forward. I'll project that. I have my screen printing company, I have my clothing line. We're going to make it. Like, but like that. Oh, and if you ask me, boldly, that's what we're doing. Came back here, I'm opening my restaurant. Like, and I was actually following through on that stuff. I just got to a point where I realized like I just don't want to live this life anymore. And to share with anyone listening is like, it wasn't like this rock bottom, like people look at you and go, that guy's messed up. All of our friends would have been like, they got it. They're cool. Nice cars, motorcycle, make money. Like, no one would have thought like, these people need some help. But again, behind closed doors, these people needed some help. So I got to the point where I realized that like everything's the same. I'm just like reliving the same life over and over again. And it's not taking me where I want to go. So I'm unsatisfied, which then feeds me back into the things that numb me, whether it was social media, drugs, alcohol, relationships, whatever it is. It's that old, and you're much younger than me, but there's Austin Powers. There was a character who would say, "I eat because I'm unhappy, and I'm unhappy because I eat." Like,
At best, yeah.
hey, all right, you're with me. All right. So, but like
Okay.
that same mentality, like, that's how I structured my whole life. And it was just feeding into negativity. So I finally got to a point where I'm like, I'm over this. And I think the biggest thing was I was working over 100 hours a week at 4 different jobs. I never got to see the greatest thing in my life, which is my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. And I think subconsciously I knew, like, she ain't gonna stick around for this. Not the money thing, not the working jobs thing. Like, the only redeeming quality was like, he's ambitious. Yeah, but who is he? You never see him.
Yeah.
And like, that's not the best way to serve my wife. Like, great, cool, you make money. And, which by the way is relative. Like, I love to do, like, I make a lot of money. Like, sure, I used to think I made a lot of money when I was 16 too. Like, my first job, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it's all relative. Yeah, I just got to a point where I'm like, I need to change. And I kept picking a tool. I kept thinking, like, okay, the screen printing company didn't work, but now the restaurant's going to work. And now this is going to be the change. And it was just singular focused. Okay, how I make money differently is going to change my life, which is just simply not the case. And because of my desire, and I was looking, I think, like I said, you kind of attract who you are, not what you want. And so I had attracted from here to California a bunch of clowns, which is why my life looked like a circus. Like, that cliche, but like, I was the clown ringleader. So I'm not saying anything negative about those 5 or those 5. Like, I brought them to me without egotism. Like, we all attract people to. It's not like I was like,
Yeah.
come here. Like, no, it's just, that's, you find your group because they're an extension of what you're comfortable with and the life you tolerate. Like, that's how you collect your group. And so I got to a point where I'm like, I am looking. I wasn't listening to podcasts yet. I wasn't reading books. I wasn't on the personal professional development train. I thought that was cheesy and like goofy. Meanwhile, most 6-figure, multiple 6-figure, 7-figure earners, they all talk about a personal professional development program, some sort of character leadership development, listening to people like you, podcasts like this, interviews, kind of picking little mindset and understanding and then applying that same success principle to whatever tool they utilize. I was not on that game yet. I was just ready to be honest enough to, like, this isn't working. And so through that, I connected with a relationship that talked about some entrepreneurs she worked with, et cetera, as far as like working not just on prospering financially, but growing spiritually, mentally, emotionally, relationally, physically, and financially. And I was like, I need a group like
that. Spiritually.
Sorry. Yeah. Like, because most people, when you think of success, the first thing, no matter what your background is, how you're raised, where you're at, most people are like, someone successful, you think money, like right off the bat. But I know tons of people with a lot of money that I would never say is successful. That's the whole thing, is sometimes you're so rich, all you have is money. Like, your wealth is in relationships. Your wealth is not just financials. We live in a world that costs money. I do think you should make money. I think it's your responsibility to find a way to do that properly by serving other people, hands down. And I think you should aspire to have resources, because when people say money, like, oh, you can get, like, I grew up in a house where we got kind of offended by people with money for no reason. It's just like, they have nice things, it must be superficial. Like, that's not always the case. Yes, sometimes, but like, if you say I'd like to have more resources, everybody wants more resources. And your only resources in life are time and money. So if you're giving away the greatest resource called time, which is more important than money, but like, time is your like quantity of life, money is your quality of life. So I do believe in making more money so you can have a higher quality of life. I don't mean a home, a car, even though I think it's important to have a safe car and a home in a nice neighborhood and provide a good solid foundation for your family. Absolutely. But it's going, okay, how am I prospering overall as a human? And again, through our faith, like, I believe this is the container, but the contents are most important. At the end of my life, I want to know that I'm progressing spiritually, mentally, emotionally, relationally, physically, and financially. I also believe it's a responsibility to my wife. I always observed, like, isn't it interesting that we typically get in the best shape of our life for strangers, and the moment we find the one, we let ourselves go? I did it. Weirdest thing. Yeah. I was working out hard, met Nikki. I'm like, all right. We dated it for about 3 months, where I was even showing her, I'm going to the gym, like, getting this right. Like, what's up? Which a lot of it is more like for self than it is for others, but like I'm doing this right. And then within 3 months, I'm like, you want to go to the gym? Nah. You want to go to the gym? Nah, we good. Pizza and ice cream, baby. And we both just let ourselves go because we had connected on a deeper level than physically, which I do think is important. But I also believe it's my responsibility to take care of myself for her. Like, I don't like, I don't have to go be in bodybuilding competitions or anything, but I'm in a better shape of my life today than I've ever been in my life. And it's because I stopped doing it for the mirror and had a deeper responsibility and accountability to my wife to be healthy for her. Also in the bedroom, I want her to be excited. I'm like, here we go again. Like, which is most relationships get to, and boring and flat and stale. And I think that the physical aspect of your life is very important. But because it's more of a mental thing for me. Like even as we started this call, you're like, how'd the rest of your workout go? Like, I shared a little bit of disappointment, which is all me. But I got to connect with two awesome people that I absolutely love, and I think they're fantastic. And I value that connectivity relationship over like 26-inch biceps, which I think that was Hulk Hogan. I don't think I'm ever going to be on that. Like, just not to limit myself, but I it's not as high enough priority in my life to go focus on that. But ultimately, it's the mental aspect. It's the fact that I got in there. It's refreshing. It's renewing. It's how I like to start my day. I feel more like me when I'm doing physical activity, more than tracking the scale or tracking on that. So anyways, to bring that back, it's yes, financially, but that is the last component. So if you wanted to structure it this way, I believe everyone should have a strong spiritual root. Choose yours, whatever it is. I think that gives you a firm foundation. It gives you proper right and wrong, gives you proper values, gives you proper accountability, gives you a guidebook for life, and also keeps you humble because you understand that there's a higher power than you. There's a old saying that like, people either believe man created God or God created man. And what I found in my life, as my two close friends in high school and my two close friends in college, both outspoken atheists, while I was going on missions trips and deeply rooted in my faith at the time, all four of them struggled with the idea of control. It was, they didn't want to feel like they didn't have complete autonomy in their life, which I can understand because I like to do what I want, how I want, with who I want. Absolutely. But I think there's a sense of peace and calm that can give you a dependency on a higher power, maybe an interdependency, but an understanding that like there's a greater thing at play than just my small little life. But I also have a lot of responsibility to the role I can play with the bigger vision, more than just what can JD create today. So anyway, so I think spiritual root, and that's just some of my perspective, but spiritual root, mentally, if you're not solid mentally, if you're not feeding yourself good, healthy, proper input, not toxic positivity, but like proper, how do you raise the bar a little bit? How do you raise the bar a little bit? Like if I went to your gym and you went to train me, you're not putting 3 plates on both ends and saying, get out of the bench.
Not going to
be by pure looking at me, you're going, let's start with the bar, my man. Okay, cool, great. And I'll build up to that. And so I think Atomic Habits talks about the Goldilocks rule. It's basically this bell curve where like you don't operate too far outside of where you're at. Like, so they use an example of like playing tennis. If I played tennis with a 6-year-old, I'd get bored real quick because it's not challenging me. So I'd lose the desire to keep playing tennis with a 6-year-old. If I played tennis with Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, Carlos Alcaraz, I would probably lose the desire fairly quick too, because it's depressing to get beat up the whole time. Now, I like to kind of beat my head against the wall and go out maybe a few more degrees outside of myself than some might. So I'll take the beating and be excited about learning. But the best thing to serve you would be to play with somebody a little bit better than you. So that you're not just getting discouraged and it's such a gap that you don't feel like you'll ever create that growth, but just a little bit better than you. Like if I'm going to train with someone in the gym, I want somebody who knows more than me and is better than me. If I'm going to play basketball with guys, I want to be the 5th guy on the team, not the 1st guy on the team, because it's going to make me better. But if I go play with guys in the NBA, I'm going to get in my head because I'm like, I don't belong in this court. I shouldn't be here. I'm taking the game down. I feel bad. You play not well. And so anyways, Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about the Goldilocks rule. It's like consistently finding yourself a few degrees outside of your comfort zone, a few degrees, 1 rung or 2 rungs higher on the ladder, not 10 rungs higher on the ladder, to grow yourself. So sort of silvering yourself mentally, and that comes down to your environment, your association, your consistent input daily. I think having a strong spiritual root and having a good like thought life will also help you with your emotional stability, which I struggled with probably all the way up to 30 easily. Is it would be on or off. Like I'm always passionate, just not always directed well. And so having that emotional stability, you wouldn't know what you'd get with me. I'd say with the times we interact, you pretty much have gotten the same JD just about every time. You're
Yeah.
not seeing going like, what's wrong with him? Or holy cow, or wow, he's pretty jacked up. Like, no, I'm excited about life, but I'm emotionally stable. You're not wondering what you're going to get, which I also think is helpful in a house too. When a guy comes home from work or a wife comes home from work or whatever they're doing and they meet, you don't want to be walking in the house like, is today a good day? You don't want to be looking at the kids like, is she all right? Are we going to be okay? Do I need to avoid her? Or like, because she's emotionally unstable. The same way you don't want the wife and the kids going like, I hope he didn't have a bad day at work today because he's going to come home and unload on us. This is going to be rough.
Yeah.
So spiritually, mentally, relationally is because if you don't have you right, this won't be good. Like, think of constantly bringing baggage into new relationship after new relationship, repeating patterns over and over again and going, I just can't find a good person down here. Like, have you done the inner work? And I'm not talking about like just me not firing shots, but sometimes people hide behind inner work in this like goofy, altruistic out there, sit on the couch and just like it'll be. No, it comes from work. I can't sit on the couch and think about getting some reps in at the gym and go, oh, yes, look at this. Like, no, I got to go do that. I think it's great to visualize. I know like people like to meditate, like, dude, whatever works for you, figure out what works for you. But ultimately, all of it's going to be putting the boots on the field and like going and doing it. And so relationally, I think your relationships in life are the seasoning to the meat. Weird, like, it's what gives life its flavor. Okay. It's interacting with great people, learning from them, seeing them strive for greatness, seeing them fall, being there to support them, being there to encourage them. It's what gives life its flavor and excitement, which is like, particularly if you're in a forward-facing job or you're an entrepreneur that's dealing with people on a regular basis, you can be doing the same mundane monotony with what you do, but you're constantly being refreshed and renewed because you're meeting new people, hearing new stories, exactly the journey you're on right now. You're going to be excited every day you sit with someone and do this, even if you get a fairly standardized question. Like, even if you have I typically go through this question, which I don't think you're going to be as generic as that, because even how you're listening, you're clearly an active listener and you're building on what the person you're speaking with is saying, going, okay, let me get a little deeper on that. Let me ask a question about that. I think it's good to have structure. But you're clearly going to have this growth. So every time you interview somebody, it's going to be different for you, even though it's the same.
It's going down.
So and part of that's perspective. I think a lot of people, particularly when you do something for an extended period of time, like same stuff, different day. And you're thinking the monotony of it. But every high performer had, every high performer had monotony. Hang on, I'll get it. Oh, are we there? We're gonna make it. Okay, we're gonna make it. Every high performer has monotony in their life. Think of Olympic athletes. They're swimming and swimming and swimming and swimming to shave off a tenth of it. But they have to renew their mind and spirit, and a lot of that comes from your relationships and your tribe. It's your people you associate with, particularly when you're with people in different industries or different walks. That's exciting because you get to apply that same truth will transfer, that same truth will transform. You can take that same success principle here and go, I like Patrick's viewpoint on that. How can I filter that to apply it to my own life, even though we use different tools, even though there's different activities we have in our life? Like, I can take that same principle and apply it here. That's fantastic. So I think the relationships is what give excitement to your life. That's why a few years ago was tough. The moment there was lockdowns and things happening, I'm like, man, think of the biggest punishment in prison outside the death penalty: solitary confinement. We're not engineered to do life alone. And I think nowadays, sometimes people get their relationship hit through social media or through Netflix or sports or movies. And that's their level of connectedness. That struggle. I love sitting with people. I love meeting people. And people go, oh, that's just your personality. No, I grew up playing video games, playing sports, and like, yeah, I was a loudmouth and whatnot, but like talking about anything real? No way. I'm like, let's keep it surface level, buddy. Like, we don't need to, like, that made me uncomfortable when people started going that route. So anyways, back on topic: spiritually, mentally, emotionally, relationally, physically. I think it's our responsibility that I talked about. If you are a believer that we have one creator and we're all creatures, and he created us how we're meant to be. Well, part of honoring that creation is taking care of that which he created. Am I stoked about my pink face, my big Adam's apple, my vampire teeth? No. But he did that for a reason. Yeah, you got to see this thing sideways, right?
I'll find yourself, man.
but ultimately, there's a purpose and a reason I was made that way. And instead of going, I'm unhappy with my love handles or whatever, I'm going to go, okay, what can I do to take care of that? And I find that through moving your body physically, it also helps as a force multiplier on all the things before that, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, relationally. You feel better about yourself, build your self-confidence. And I believe it's honoring, just like I talked about, honoring to yourself, honoring to your spouse, and honoring to your creator if you have that belief. And then, okay, cool, finances. Like, important, but I think typically what people make and how they produce, at least in the way they produce it, if it's with values, is an extension of everything that went before that. And I find sometimes we get so busy in life, we're chasing the finances, but we're not doing the work on ourselves. You might get it, but you won't keep it. You might get it, but you don't go about it the way where you're adding value to others. You might get it, but you're not an example. When people are like, I didn't ask to be a role model. Well, the moment you put on a jersey and people, millions of people watch you, that's a responsibility. I just want to get paid and not have any responsibility. Well, okay. Just
Wow. It's amazing how today's society has that model that you just laid out flipped on its head. Where get the money, get paid, that's the most important thing. Then you'll attract the women, then you'll attract, you can get paid to fix your Botox, get all this fat removal stuff. You're gonna attract the right relationships when you get there. Then after that, you can, all right, well, maybe we'll do some work, maybe we'll get a therapist, but it all starts with the money. You gotta have money to have health, good people in your life, all of that. But the way that you broke it down flips it and it puts it the proper way, because you start at that foundation and go from there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which also keeps you in constant progression. Because if you have a number that you like, I'll be successful when I remember when I made $2,000 a month, I'm like, oh man, if I make 10 grand a month, life will be different. It's better. You have more options, you have more resources, but just by making 5 times what you're currently making, whether you're making 10 grand a month right now and then you want to make 50, just by making 5 times more than what you currently make, it doesn't make life better. It gives you more options. And it's how you steward that. So anyways, that's kind of you have to be in constant progression. So I also try to not have a number that like, I'll be successful when. Whereas I will never arrive spiritually. Ever, till the day that I'm gone, which means I constantly, the goalpost being moved. I'm in a way better, more rooted, deeper relationship today than I was previously, but I feel like that can always be improved, and there needs to be ongoing maintenance, renewal. Why do people go to church every Sunday? Well, I've heard the David and Goliath story. It needs to renew your mind and spirit, and potentially hear a different perspective from a different pastor sharing that story and going, oh, I never thought of it that way, never heard of it that way. Why do people listen to podcasts on a regular basis, particularly if it's in the same vein of thought or theme that they've been in that industry for 10, 20, 30 years. It's the desire for growth in that area. So same principle, but I'm like, desire for growth in that area going, okay, how can I become better and look at things a little bit different? What challenges my current thought life? What challenges how I view things that'll cause me to reflect on why I do that way? And either be open to a shift or be more rooted in, no, this is where I stand. And not just like, I stand there because my parents said that's what we do. I stand there because like my mom was a Christian, so now I automatically am without thinking about it myself. My mom was a Democrat or Republican, so now I automatically am because like that's what we are. Why? So it keeps you in that constant healthy questioning with a curious spirit about, okay, why do I feel this way and how can I improve? And if you start spiritually, it means you're never going to finish there. You can always get stronger mentally. You can always be more rooted emotionally. You can always improve the quality of your relationships. You can always get better physically. If you ask people, anytime you talk about people being fit or unfit, most people get kind of insecure about it. Even people that you look at like, man, he's shredded. I'm sure you look at yourself and go, yeah, you're in great shape, man. But you're probably like, I could be a little bit better. Like I could probably refine this area, refine that area.
Mostly, I mean, considering that's like the highest focus when you talk to those people, they're probably the most insecure about it because it shows that it's the most important to them, essentially.
They're hyper aware. So, but it's interesting when we can all get in our feelings about like someone that's better than us financially or in more shape physically, we can look at ourselves lower than, but have the exact same motion of how we view ourselves, even if someone has more or better in that area. Whereas if we can all look at each other and go, hey, you may be more fit than me, but we're both on the same journey of refining as well. We actually have the same emotion of how we speak to ourselves of not quite being where we want to be. And it's all about how we process that, which goes back to the relationships we have and how they support that. And your mental thought, like how you speak to yourself. So anyways, it keeps you in progression at all times. And then the financial aspect just ends up being an extension of your true character.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not generous when you have little, you won't be generous when you have much. A lot of people are like, oh, when I have this, then I'll do that. Okay. I find a lot of times that's a cop out, an excuse for not going. It's like people are like, I'll start going to the gym when I'm in better shape. But that, no, go right now. Well, I'm going to be self-conscious. You know what? People are proud of you when they see you visibly unhealthy, like getting after it.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. That's awesome. And then your change is a bigger inspiration to people because it came a longer journey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you hit your next goal in fitness. When I see you there, I probably won't even notice that you'd hit it because you're already in great shape. Whereas there's a couple people that have been going there. I've noticed them for the past few months. Just yesterday, I go, wow, good for them. I've seen them been taking the classes and getting personal training. And it visibly shows, I don't know what their goals are. Everyone's goals are different. But it would seem to be their goal was to get more fit and lose some weight. It's working. They look great. That's a bigger test than somebody else who's already there.
They look healthier, they look happier, all of that, the little things that can show in somebody that, as you said, you see them every once in a blue moon.
You can see they carry themselves. They walk different.
Yeah. One sticking point I think that you were pretty passionate about was doing the work. And I know a lot of men are almost adverse to doing the work. And I want to, without getting too personal, maybe, I mean, if you were comfortable in terms of like what that looked like for you, what was that process like, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah. I think to talk to males, let me not use that term loosely. There's a lot of males still acting like boys, regardless of their age. Mm-hmm. And there's young men that are acting more like men than people older their age. I think that comes down to a maturity. And one of my favorite mentors, I asked him at one point, like, when does a boy become a man? Because when he puts away childish things. It's not an age. It's when you put away the childish things. And that can be different to everybody. But doing the work, I think it's easy. I'll speak to myself as a man. It is easier for me to push myself physically than anything else. Mm-hmm. Which is why I played in an adult kickball league and went to the tournament in New York and went to the national tournament in Vegas for kickball at 25, not 5, at 25. Which some guys might hear that and be like, oh man, they must have been nasty. Like, good for them. Like, yeah, we were legit. And you have guys like, oh, my flag football league or my fantasy football, where now you're not even playing a sport, but like my softball team, whatever it is, my rec soccer, good, be active. I like that. But if that defines you of winning that area, that's not nearly as hard as growing mentally and emotionally. Mm-hmm. That's not nearly as hard as standing where you stand spiritually without disrespect or superiority to others. It's not nearly as difficult. So in my journey of doing the work, I think physically it's always easier to do the work. I think as an employee, it's easier to be an employee than it is an entrepreneur because someone's disciplining you. So going back to what you talked about probably 42 minutes ago, I wanted to mention Stephen Pressfield's The Art of War, mm-hmm. the War of Art. It's one of those. There's a famous book, that's the opposite title, but Stephen Pressfield is the author. He talks about every day is a battle with our inner child. Mm-hmm. I have fat JD, I have lazy JD. Mm-hmm. Every day I wake up, most days I wake up, I don't want to get up. I don't want to get in the ice bath. I don't want to take my kids to school. I don't want to go to the gym more times than I wake up going, let's get it. Mm-hmm. That. And so every day is disciplining my inner child and saying, but you committed to this, to your identity, not how you feel. You have your feelings, actions, identity. Instead of starting with your feelings, kind of being haphazard with your actions and never getting rooted in your identity, you root yourself in your identity. I'm a healthy person who takes care of my children and goes and takes care of my body and moves forward. Well, the action, the feeling will follow the action. There's a great book called The Magic of Thinking Big back in the day that talks about that. But anyways, long story, Stephen Pressfield talks about winning that battle. And so for me, it's still an ongoing battle, daily battle. But I've got great men in my life that require me. I've worked hard to put myself in a position where I am seen. I can't hide. Mm-hmm. So I can't fake it because I have authentic men in my life that will know if I'm faking. Mm-hmm. And so one of the best things you can do is put yourself in a position where people are counting on you and are looking at you, because when they're not, you'll let yourself down all day. I let myself down on my health journey for 30 years. It took a bad health scare, a big tumor and surgery, and wasn't supposed to be here at the age of 35 for me to go, I see my health on track. Like, I was still an external discipline. It was an external motivator, not an intrinsic motivator. So you get to the point with the identity that it needs to be an intrinsic motivator so I can move myself forward. And every day's still a battle. Last night, all I wanted to do was eat crappy food at 11:30. But I was like, nah, I'm gonna drink some water and take my probiotic. I'm gonna go to bed. And I was stoked about it. I woke up this morning going, well, get your butt to the gym. You did the right thing last night.
Mm.
I don't know why I was stoked about it last night and this morning. It's because I lost that battle 2 nights ago.
Mm.
It was about 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm hungry. And my wife was like, you want some fried PBJs? It's like grilled cheese, but with peanut butter and jelly in a pan. Bro. And I'm like, no, I don't want those. Yeah, I wanted those.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that. And I ate all of those and a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up in the morning and I said, I don't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, my tummy kind of hurts. And I didn't go.
Mm.
And I was disappointed in myself. So, and Atomic Habits actually talks about building patterns or routines. You can have an off day, just don't have 2 in a row. Because now you're building a new routine.
So how do you deal with that struggle that you fall on your face? You had your PB&J, you wake up, your stomach hurts, you don't want to go. What's that conversation look like?
I spent the day telling myself tomorrow's going to be different. Now I could have gone to the gym later, and I've done that plenty of times and whatnot. I had a bunch of stuff going on yesterday, but I said, there's no way I don't make it tomorrow, because I'm not the type of guy who misses 2 days in a row, because I've already committed to myself, regardless of the emotion and feeling previously, that builds a pattern. I'm going to build a pattern towards an upward trajectory, not a pattern. People don't get fat in a day. People don't get unfit financially in a day.
Mm.
They lose that discipline going, okay, I'll order in and I'll eat crappy food. I'll eat crappy food. Okay, I'm not ordering in, I'm being disciplined with my budget, and I'm eating healthy food. I'm going to sleep at the right time. I'm waking up, like I said. And so I always look at the long-term vision of like, okay, what is this day leading up to my long-term trajectory? And if I go one good day, one bad day, one good day, one bad day, one good day, one bad day, I stay the same, unacceptable. If I go one good day, 2 bad days, I am now giving more votes to the negative. I'm in trouble. And the more days that goes, it's going to be tougher to turn that ship around. Mm-hmm. I'm just making it more difficult on myself. So I'm human, and I'll slip up, and I slipped up. And the worst part is, like, I knew it, and I made the decision anyways. I'm like, I don't care, I want it. Like, because I still have that JD. I still have lazy JD in there. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and I even told myself, I'm still going to make it to the gym. I did. And so I called myself out on lying to myself. Okay. And I said, it's Friday, less people at the gym there this morning. Interesting. I'm going to separate myself. On the day where most people make an excuse, I don't have that excuse. I used it yesterday and shouldn't have to begin with. And I'm not going in there going, I'm here and nobody else is, but I'm going, you're separating yourself from average. Not in superiority, I'm not better than them, but like I'm separating myself from yesterday's JD. Like literally, I'm separating myself.
Yesterday version of yourself, yes.
Exactly. So yeah. So every day it's a battle, but I'm big on systems. You know, a lot of people go, I have, like, beginning of the year, I have my visions and my goals, and this is going to happen. This is going to be amazing. Okay, what systems do you have in place that because you're not going to naturally rise to the level of your goals. You're going to fall to the level of your systems. And if you don't have systems in place, my life is ran on alarms, calendar reminders. Most people make fun of me because I'm always like, hey, Siri, set alarm for 4:02 p.m. Patrick McEnany. And Siri does it for me.
Patrick McEnany, an alarm is set for 4:02 p.m.
People make fun of me because I do it all the time, because if I don't, like, people are like, oh, you're so organized. No, I'm not. I know I'm not. So I use systems in life to make sure I stay on track. And now when that goes off at 4:02, I'm going to go, what was it? Text Patrick, say hello. I don't know what to. So you put stuff in your life that give you a greater chance of following through. That's why having a personal trainer or having an accountability partner, like, keeps you on track. You don't want to let other people down, which is why, again, I believe men need more responsibility on their shoulders. You stay straight with a heavier load. You swerve side to side when you have no load. We need to have responsibility. We need to have accountability. We need to have requirements. Otherwise, it's YOLO. I do what I want. I'm going to do me. Ugh. What? No, we need to have that. It makes you better, because I'm also human too. And if I wasn't accountable to men and didn't have things I need to follow through on weekly, I could easily go, I'll do it next day. I'll do it tomorrow. It's just a little bit of Netflix. And I'm not saying you can't watch Netflix. I'm just saying, like,
of course.
We rationalize and we justify. Rational lies. It's something we know is a lie that we put some rational wrapping around to go like, no, that's legitimate. Justify is like, just if I did what I said I would, then I wouldn't have to justify the excuse that I'm giving myself or others now because I didn't feel like it in the moment, which I'm guilty of all of that.
I love those. Justify and rationalize.
None of it is personal. It's all stolen material. I read a lot of books, listen to a lot of it's all like, that's good. Okay. So I
All
can't
the
take
way
credit.
before that was all stolen material. We're all just, products of everybody that came before us. So
Our entire talk today, nothing has been original. Nothing. Our entire talk. But that's what makes us all, we're a product of our environment, we're a product of our association and the input we receive on a regular basis. It just gets to filter that through our own personality and deliver that in our own unique way.
amazing. On that note, I want to know, when this is all said and done, what does JD want to be known for? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? When they say, all right, man, JD, it's his funeral, what is somebody saying about that guy?
It's a great question. I would say I had many years of my life where I focused on what others think of me and what they would say of me. And I don't agree with it doesn't matter what other people think. Like, no, it can be a cop out to not elevating yourself. But I guess I don't know if it's cheesy or cliche or corny or whatever, but ultimately, I've gotten to a point where it's like, when I'm done and I go meet my maker, I want him to say, well done. And then I was obedient and I maximized what this had the capabilities and opportunity to do. And I want to know that, I guess, people felt cared for. Not that I was the funniest guy or the smartest guy or the wealthiest guy. I appreciate the compliment of our relationship. I think we do have a standard that we need to be that example in all those areas I talked about earlier, but not for the glorification or the recognition or what they'll say at my funeral or how many people show up or what the obituary says or how I'm remembered in that way. I do believe we have a commitment to our legacy, but our legacy isn't what we leave. It's what we leave in people when we're gone. And so I guess to your question, it's like, what would my legacy be? I'd love to say just care for people. It's like lived my life in a way that outlived my life because it wasn't just for me. So I don't know. That's a deeper question that I really have to think on. So it's a really great question, man. And it's tough because that's one of those, if you had told me that beforehand, I would have had more time to think about it, but it may not have been as organic because I would have been like, okay, what's the right answer to this? Am I to overthink? So I think it'll be great for you to keep hit people with that, and have a more natural moment. But it's also going to be something that you leave me with because I'm going to reflect on that when this call ends, which my iPad has 1%. So it could be. We're keeping it out in the open here. We're not going to know. So how do you know when to wrap up that? So awesome.
In that with following that, I mean, wow, thank you for everything. I think, this was beyond my expectations and unbelievable. So truthfully, thank you for your time, your energy, your passion, your insight. I know I certainly gained a lot. I'm sure the millions of followers that this podcast will once have, will soon have, will definitely be inspired and enlightened by your insight. So truthfully, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Love it. Well, first of all, I appreciate you asking me. Humbled when you asked me to begin with. I was already like, oh, okay, yeah. And I'm sure I do right by you and do well for you. And I'm excited to watch your journey. I'm excited to be a part of it as much as possible. So please send me every edition, every posting. Where can I follow you? How can I promote you? Hey man, I got my buddy who's doing this amazing podcast, doing big things. I want you to be able to check it out. So keep me in the loop, and I want to do as much as I can to serve you in any way that I can outside of just this hour. So
thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for that, and we'll take you up on it, truthfully.
I mean it. So please let me know. Cool.
All right.
Awesome.
I'll talk to you soon. We
Absolutely.
made it. We made it.
Yeah. And we're here. Awesome, dude. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for everything.
Hey, thank you.
Bye.